My name is Blek le Rat, and I'm coming from France. I was born in Paris in 1951, and I started to make graffitis in 1981 in Paris. At that time, I used to make to paint some rats, along the roadside of in the street, and I put many rats, like thousands and thousands for a few years. In 1984, a guy from New York City called Richard Hambleton, who is an American graffiti artist living in New York, came into Paris, and this guy used to paint big shadows with brush and paint, in black color, and he used to make huge shadows, absolutely huge and beautiful. That guy has a talent, absolutely great. And I was so impressed by that at that time I decided to make big size, because my rats was very small, and I decided to make characters and big size. Actually, he was the first guy to export his work abroad from United States, And I remember he went to Berlin, Napoli, Roma, London, and he makes his shadows everywhere in Europe. And he had a really big influence on street art. So I saw this guy, the work of this guy. So I told me, now it's impossible to do small things in the street. You have to be seen in the street, and to be seen, you have to make large things, large characters. So I started to make big stencils, very primitive work, because I didn't have the technique at that time to make a beautiful stencil. So it was like kind of primitive. But so the first big stencil I made was a old man yelling in the street, So it was an old man with a cap. I remember he has glasses, and he was screaming in the street. And I had a huge impact at that time in France with this guy, with this old man, because I painted it everywhere in France, in many different cities, in south of France, in Paris, and everywhere. I make a tour, with my car, and I put it. And he had a huge impact at that time, and so I realized at that time also that street art could be very important. It was something important. I knew that I was making something important. I knew it at the beginning. The first stencil I make in the street, I knew that it was something important. I didn't know at that time how long it took me to be recognized, but I knew that I was doing something important. And I have to say now that there is no city in the world without graffiti. Everywhere you go in the world, even in Beijing, even everywhere you can find graffiti art. Everywhere. And I really think that this movement is the most important movement of art of all the time, really, because if you count the number of pieces, the number of artists, it's impossible to compare with another movement of art in the history of art. Pop art movement was very important all over the world. But not like that, and it's an experience absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible, and we are living something very strong in the chain of history of art,